Yeah, it works very, very well. But I think if you're really building anything with content, you've got to really think about who's on the other side of it. Who am I trying to attract? What do they want to see? You know, we see so many agents that put out pretty pictures and they'll get likes, but they won't get you business. It's got to bring value to the people that you're trying to attract. And then once you've done it and you've been consistent for a while and you've brought them value, then they'll start reaching out to you. And it works. I'll have George on once in a while. We'll talk about single tenant net lease deals, and those videos get him business. You know, people start calling, hey, how do I get in touch with George? And, you know, so make sure George contacts him, or he'll go on my YouTube channel and make comments back to them, and they connect. And yeah, it drives business, but you got to think about how do you bring value.
Welcome again, everybody, to the Zelnik Exchange. I'm very excited for this episode. I have my dear friends Joe Killinger and George Pino, partners over at Commercial Brokers International out in California. And we're just going to talk stuff. This is probably a combined, with the three of us, close to 100 years of real estate experience, scary as that may seem, and as young as we all look. I just want to chat about stuff because these two guys are like close and dear friends. That's how I see them. And it's not going to be, and this is going on about 5 years now, coming up on 5 years, and it's not going to be until early September that we finally meet in person. We have never met before. Social media has made us besties, as they say. And it's my pleasure to have you guys back. I love chatting with you, so let's do it up. Joe, why don't you lead in, talk about some of your history and what led to you guys coming together, and we'll just roll with it from there.
Well, we're together because George fired me. That's why. You know, we were at a company together years ago, a real estate auction company here in Los Angeles, and some things happened within the company. They made layoffs across the company. I was in the marketing department. George was in the closing department. For some reason, they thought, all right, this kid from Nebraska is okay. Let's keep him on. Let's move him into the closing department because we don't need him in marketing anymore. So George, I think, was number 3 on the list of management at the time when I got moved in there. Shortly after that, his leaders all got let go, and George is now in charge. And then I go home for Christmas, and I come back, and I get a call from the secretarial pool saying, Joe, you're going to be let go. George is going to have to let you go. And so I go into the office early the next morning, and George comes walking in. I think it was 7:30, and I said, you got something to tell me? He goes, yep, let's grab a coffee, let's talk. And we sit there and talk for a little bit.
I got to cut you off for a second.
Yeah.
Give me the part about the secretarial pool again. Was that like a gossipy thing that they were letting you go?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I knew George was getting, so I'll tell you, I'll come back to the secretarial pool.
Okay.
So I knew I was getting laid off. George came in, ended up laying me off. We got to talk a little bit that morning. I left. I went to another firm, a startup auction company, and was doing that. I get a call from the people in the secretarial pool saying, George is going to be laid off tomorrow. Be aware. And I said, okay. And then George called me that next afternoon. He goes, I got laid off. I said, I heard. So the moral of the story is just know the secretarial pool knows everything before it happens.
I thought the moral of the story was I've been paying for it ever since laying off. For the last 35 years.
I was getting into that. And so George called me up and said, hey, what are you doing? I told him what I was doing. And he was in a situation where he was engaged, and, she had 2 kids, and, marriage was coming up and no job now. And so I said, well, you can come over and work 50-50 with me, and we'll start at 100% commission. And he did, so I've taken a lot out of that story, but just for the time's sake, this is how we got started. And we've been partners ever since.
And that was the start. That was the start of CBI.
Nope. That was the start of our partnership. We started. It was called the Sands Group. It was a startup auction company. We were in our 20s and had no idea what we're doing. We just started rolling phone calls to. This is back when auctions were really going. So we were calling RTC, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, developers.
Sure.
We get in George had the best car, so we took George's car. and we would drive all of Southern California. We would drive at 1 day a week. Typically, we'd get in a car and we just drive. We never took a freeway anywhere. We always took side streets looking for development deals, and we'd call on them. And then, I mean, the internet wasn't around, so the phone was the only tool that you really had. And so we just got to know our market better than anybody else. So when we went on a pitch, we could talk about every property because we'd physically been on that property. And that was probably our biggest sales that we had, was that ability to know the marketplace that well. And that and the cold calling, we just stayed cold calling. We'd start at 8 o'clock in the morning, call back east. We'd work our way across the United States, end up calling on banks in Hawaii, and then we'd stop, fold letters, had to physically fold the letters and put them in the mail that night.
And this is two guys with one desk.
Pretty well, we each had a desk, but
Yeah.
Yep, but that was pretty much it. Well, within the first 18 months, we were the number 2 auction company in the market, and eventually we took over the number 1, which, by the way, was the company that fired George and I.
What was that? What was the last part?
It was the company that fired George and I.
Okay, nice. And so we'll go back. I'm going to take you back half a step. You're a kid from Nebraska. What just give me the bumper sticker version of leaving Nebraska and coming to California. What was that about?
There was family had lost the farm. There was really no place to go back to. Couldn't afford college anymore.
Okay.
Packed up my car and headed west.
All right.
And I ran out of money. I was getting gas in San Clemente. My car broke. I had $1,200. Car broke down in Flagstaff. Cost me $600. I now know that they just took me there. Naive kid from Nebraska. And I got to San Clemente. I'm like, well, this better be it. And so I need to start living somewhere. So that was it.
All right, good for you. And so George, just give me a little backstory on you. And you're a California sort of born and raised.
Well, no, a military family actually. I was born in Japan.
Oh, okay.
So for the first 13 years or so, or 12 years of my life, I just moved around all over, from mainly overseas, but then back into the U.S. And then when my my father retired, it was pretty much we kind of settled in Orange County, went to school in Los Angeles, and stayed up here.
Nice.
For that, and then
Nice.
kind of fell into the real estate game accidentally, believe it or not.
I can't tell you how many times, because
Oh, yeah.
one that's my answer, but how many times that's how people respond. That's how people respond. So what was your accident?
My accident was old college buddy was actually working at the real estate auction company at the time,
Right.
and they needed some help. I had a business that I had started in college that was doing all right, where we're designing T-shirts and some other stuff and things along those lines, but it was very cyclical on the business side. He called me up and said, "Hey, do you want a short-term gig to help us out for a little bit?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll do that for a few weeks." And 2 weeks in, they offered me a full-time job, made an offer that was like, oh, for a young person, I was like, that's not a bad salary. You know what? I can go with this. I'll try this. And just, timing was probably one of the best things in that. Happened to join the company at a time when it was experiencing a lot of growth.
Okay.
So for whatever reason, they decided to trust me with a lot of responsibility.
All right. And what'd you do? What did they trust you with?
Well, they originally they assigned me over to the largest territory to oversee the closings on that, and that was in Texas.
Okay.
So at that time, they were doing probably about 2,000 or so properties at auction in Texas that I have to oversee the closings of throughout, and I'd have to coordinate with the sellers, primarily banks. This was First Interstate Bank, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mac, Texas Commerce Bank way back in the day, things like that. So, they assigned, here I am, some snot-nosed 22-year-old kid, and I'm talking to, and dealing with the senior VPs that are actually my age now.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, I was able to work out some really good relationships and got assigned to it. I ended up opening up offices for them, opening an office in Houston, for the closing department in Houston, and one in Dallas, one in Boston, and then one in Chicago. And,
And
final one was Pleasanton, where I met my wife.
oh,
So,
mazel tov, as they say.
yes.
But so let me speak like the naive city boy that I am. I'm just in a small town here. When you run when you run these auctions, and I don't mean to be silly, but maybe I am. I think of watching Yellowstone, and they run the cattle in, and they start bidding on the cattle. Are they doing something similar with the properties? Are you in a room like that? And is it an auctioneer, literally or figuratively, or?
Absolutely. Actually, these were what they call open outcry auctions because there was no internet at that time. So the open outcry auction really, and what was wonderful about that was it really taught us some really valuable lessons when it came to marketing and positioning that we still use today with our properties, even though they're not being auctioned off or so, just in a strategic manner of marketing our properties and getting them out there by creating that. A lot of it was creating the buzz or the energy or the demand for those
Right.
properties. So it was went into the psychology of the sale. We tracked a lot of the marketing, the tools, and those are tools that we still use today to really improve our marketing, to really focus what we're doing for our clients. And so these were actual open outcry auctions where you would have in a ballroom anywhere from 400 to 1,000 people that were bidding on anywhere from 40 to 1,000 properties, depending on the type of auction it was. And then immediately upon the sale of the auction or upon the winning bid, they'd be taken to the back room or what we call the closing room. And I was overseeing that where we would set up, and we had everybody set up at one time. It was best compliment I got was someone walked in and said, "You guys look like the McDonald's of real estate." and because immediately as soon as somebody won the bid, we took them in, we took a cashier's check, we took the deposit, we had escrow and title sitting right there.
Right.
We opened escrow immediately. As soon as they opened escrow, if they wanted a financing contingency, they had to go through the bank's lender. So we had the lender there. So we had loan applications, everything going in. We were closing these properties with financing all within 30 to 40 days. And hitting those targets, all at one time, 400 properties at one time closing within 30, 45 days.
Oh,
Window. So that was it. And, eventually, actually, the funnest part of the auction where, you had the open outcry where the actual auctioneer, but they also had floor people. And near the end, I got to do the floor people after we trained the back room staff. And that was actually fun because, the floormen are kind of like the eyes and ears for the auctioneer, so to speak, where, if you're in a ballroom with 1,000 people, the auctioneer's not going to be able to see everybody. So you have floormen running up and down,
looking for the
talking
paddle?
to the
You
people
looking for
and getting the bids up. Yep,
Yeah.
paddles, absolutely. Yep, and and people yelling out, "Hey, ho, ho!" Everything going on. It was a lot of fun.
Well, look, we all know that sort of ain't nothing happening with a lot of hard work, and
Yeah.
so that's what it takes. And so you guys evolve from being auction. I'm saying it facetiously, auctioneers, but from the auction business. And where does the evolution of real estate brokerage come? George, you're a top tier producer in the industry. I think it says Knackle then Pino on the list somewhere. How does this all start bringing this all together?
Wish that was true, but thank you for the kind words, Corey. But not quite right under that list. Maybe a few pages down. Yeah. But it actually started off. We started doing. We opened up the Sands Group. We were running that, and actually ended up managing that for Fred Sands, and that was from '93 to about '98. And during that time, we had a great time. Joe and I also started an investment company where we started buying properties for ourselves as well during that time. And then from that, in '98, Fred Sands sold his residential company, which at the time was the largest residential company in the United States with close to 2,000 agents. And he sold it to Coldwell Banker.
And that's just a multifamily brokerage house.
He was just actually residential, plain like single family, multifamily, and he also had a commercial division, but he kept that.
I want to pause you a little bit. I want to break you, but tell me about some of your ownership interests because I do the same thing. I'm a broker, but I invest. You guys, are you long-term holders? How have you played the real estate market as owners?
Well, Easiest answer for that is, when we first, and one of the reasons we started buying is Fred was actually a little bit of a mentor as well. And he used to make a running joke of, when do real estate agents retire?
Okay, when is that?
And his answer was when they die, because most real estate agents they'll go through ebbs and flows of their income. They end up
Right.
spending what they, make right away, and never really save or buy anything or invest. So, we took that to heart and we started looking at, well, how are we going to start investing? So we started looking at investments, and whether we're a long-term holder or short-term, I wouldn't say that. I would say that how we look at it is, I'm buying the property. If I'm going to hold on to it, the property that we're looking for and looking at, typically speaking, we usually have an investment horizon in mind, but generally we do buy it and plan on holding it. It's cash flowing. We always typically buy for cash flow. However, at the same time, if we get an offer and it makes sense, I'll sell it. Joe and I will sell the property at any time as well. That happened with the last property we sold. We had bought a 72-unit property in Dallas, and we were looking and holding on to it to potentially reposition, redevelop, add on a couple extra buildings and whatnot. And lo and behold, we end up getting an offer that pretty much had all our profit into it already built in. And we looked at it and like, well, if the person's willing to pay that price, we're willing to accept it, of course. And so we ended up purchasing that or selling that, and then we exchanged it out.
Have those investments always been multifamily investments? Have you invested in any type of retail stuff? I always have to say the word retail once in the course of my podcast.
Well, we initially started going multifamily because that's really all we knew, but also Joe had a fantastic real estate investment concept that was probably the very first socially responsible real estate investment company that actually was around, to the point where we were able to get a lot of publicity on that. We're written up in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, LA Business Journal, and things like that. So that investment company itself was geared toward multifamily. When it ran its course, we started repositioning those assets and started buying single tenant net lease and some others. So we have some single tenant net lease assets. One I'm right now in the process of repositioning, re-tenanting, and looking at a few others as well as raising a small fund right now as well.
That's excellent. And so Joe, you have this brainstorm about how you want to set up this investment company. Where does that come from?
Small town, Nebraska. Where I'm from population was 281, and if I ever had a homework problem when I was a kid, I could pick up the phone and call my teachers. My math teacher mostly was the biggest problem, and my aunt was my English teacher, so that was a good one. But we came up with, it was called Learning Link Centers, and it was really just buying multifamily properties in areas that low to moderate income areas. We take a percentage of the units and we'd put school teachers in them. We'd discount their rent, and then we would create a place where they could go and teach then at night. So we'd take like a studio, we turned that into what we called a resource room. Mm-hmm. And we had computers with educational software, a mini library. Board games were huge. Sure. And that's where the teachers would then tutor the kids after school 4 nights a week, because what was happening was the teachers would, they end up teaching for the day, and they have to drive to someplace else to do tutoring to supplement their income. So we thought, why not just create a place where they could go home and they could spend a couple hours each night instead of being on the road. They could go home, tutor the kids, and then be at home. And we weren't really sure how it was going to go, but man, we were in some tough areas here in LA. Oh yeah, and it worked phenomenal. And, we thought we're going to lose, we might not get the returns because we're, discounting the teachers' rents and the resource room. But we ended up getting higher rents because we didn't have the damage on the property. We didn't have the turnovers. Higher returns. And it was a win-win for everybody.
That's great. Were there tax benefits or things like that because of what you were doing? Nothing, huh?
No, we're running it as a straight for-profit.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing.
And it turned out to be a return. So we ended up doing it in LA and in Dallas. But probably the biggest mistake we made, Corey, was people didn't move. So you couldn't backfill the resource room. Right. So eventually all the resource was empty and no kids because they moved on to higher education. And we had it was called Education Advantage Foundation. it was a nonprofit that gave these kids for higher education or if they went on to a job. And so we gave them scholarships and really helped them get on their feet. But we ended up having to sell the buildings because we just didn't have any more kids.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I can go back out to those buildings here in LA, and a lot of those people still live there.
Yeah.
Unless we haven't done that for 12 years, 15 years. Yeah, it's been a long time.
And the scary part is these neighborhoods that we're in were extremely transitional. I mean, one of the first neighborhoods we went into, the elementary school had a 68% attrition rate. So, 68% of the people were moving out of the area, and yet now we were able to stabilize it. It worked out really well because by stabilizing it, our make-ready costs and maintenance actually lowered dramatically.
No, that's great. And so now, that it sounds like, that ran its course, right? For lack of a better term.
Yeah.
What has been your guys, without overstepping on my end, I hope, what has been your investment strategy, as just owners what have you been looking at?
Well, as George was saying, we got this guy that came in and offered to buy our properties in Dallas, and we took that and we started buying single tenant net lease deals around Texas. And so that's our focus. And right now we're raising a fund to buy more properties because our goal with our company is to always figure out a way to help our agents do kind of creating like a 401k for them, right? So they're going to be able to throw in on the deal. Or if they go out and raise money, we'll give them a fee for raising the money. They can throw that in the deal. And it'll allow them to own a piece of real estate.
That's great. What is it? And what is this fund? What is this fund going to be?
It's in the process right now. It's a STNL fund. We're not very good at come up with names. STNL fund is what it's called. We might change it at some point.
Let me ask it. Yeah. I'll ask an easier question. What's going to be the objective of the fund? What's going to be the investment objective of the fund?
We're just going to buy single tenant net lease deals around the country.
Single net.
We're going to be able to invest. It's a small fund, $3 to $5 million. And George has been doing single tenant net lease deals for a few years,
right?
And so he's got a lot. He came in with a great one today. There's deals that are coming in that are off market that we see on a daily basis. So it's going to allow us to leverage some of that opportunity.
That's great. That's great. If you see if there's any kind of retail chatter, I'm always happy to have a retail talk with anybody about anything retail. I just love it.
Our main investment focus, we're as I like to explain it to anyone who asks, we are geographically agnostic, but extremely location driven. So, we're looking for prime locations that we're okay with the cash flow if that's the situation. But at the same time, if I could spin it out and reposition it, that's even better. We're looking at an asset right now that we could has a short-term lease, but it's a very desirable asset. We're able to pick it up with a good corporate credit-rated tenant at a 7.25 cap. Should be able to re-tenant it right now, doing the initial stuff, taking a look at kind of like just doing a void analysis to determine who we can bring in for the tenancies. I think we can replicate the rent, but with the tenants that we're looking at, we're probably going to drop the exit cap down to a 5 with a new 20-year lease.
Nice.
So, we're doing that right now for another one of our properties in Dallas. And this one's also happens to be in Texas, just not in the Dallas submarket, but, we're looking at those. Sure. And that's kind of what we're looking at. It's like, yes, it's a great tenant, great location. If they stay, exercise their option, that's fine with us. However, if they leave, that's even better. So
of course, right? That's we all love the value add aspect of it, and obviously the way the financing is going these days, you got to pick up, you got to get the right lender involved here. So that's great. That's exciting stuff. And I'm pro investment and I'm pro retail investment because it's what I do. My side hustle of single family homes is really Section 8 housing and stuff like that. I have a great partner. But my main focus is really the retail stuff. But this is not about me; it's about you guys. And so, I want to talk. I want to jump, a little bit further ahead. Not in the interest of time, but just because we're all the three of us are so involved in social media, and you know we're the old dogs, right? We're the dinosaurs, and in a really strange way, I think we're leading the charge, and that's not patting myself or ourselves on the back, but I think that we're doing some good, fun stuff, and you know it takes me right to, you know, Joe, you and the 40,000 or so viewers on YouTube. You know, give me a little backstory on that and how you got from, you know, one viewer, which was George, to 40,000 viewers.
Yeah, you know, I'm actually doing a pivot on that, so I'll talk about it because I kind of got to where and we all do this, I guess, but the likes, the comments, the followers, they start growing and it gets to be an addiction. And it wasn't really, I'll tell you how it all started. When I was going to college, I wanted to be a teacher. I was going to take ag, and I was going to want to eventually go back and be an ag teacher in the school. So I always loved teaching. But when George and I got into the industry, there was really, and maybe at least in LA, there was no real mentoring happening back then. Yeah. It just wasn't. They always felt like, I don't want to build my own competition, you know, so, and it's completely changed. So I just saw it as an opportunity to really help young people that want to get into our industry, because their turnover rate in our industry is 3-4 years into it, 87% of the people that started are gone.
Something,
you know, maybe
like
even
that.
higher
Yes.
than that now.
Yeah.
And so why is that? Well, it's no education, not proper education, not proper mentoring, any of it. Mm-hmm. And so I work on this because, you know, I've got a website. It's all geared toward helping people that really want to get into our industry stay in our industry, or people that are struggling a little bit find out what works for them. And, you know, I take calls. I was on the phone for an hour with a young guy last night that's getting into the industry, and he's trying to figure out his path. But, you know, it was really just trying to create content that was really helpful. And I think I strayed from the path because I started doing interviews with people that are authors, right?
Right.
And with the books. And it was very interesting to me because I was learning why these people were writing these books. And then my sister one day, a few months ago, said, you know, you really kind of got away from why you started the YouTube channel with the training. And I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right. And so I've made a pivot here over the last month, and it's a struggle. Views are, you know, people subscribe to the channel because of the authors and learning what the authors are doing. So the content is changing, and so I'm kind of starting over again. It's pretty interesting being this spot because I'm refiguring out what works and what doesn't work again. But it's also focused more on educating people in our industry. Of what's worked for me, and I'm constantly talking to people in our industry. I'm talking to you, to Bob, to Ken, to all these people in our industry, what's working in their market, and just picking their brain. And then I make content around it because it's something that has really helped drive our industry. And so we're in a new path right now. We're on a new path, but we're learning it. But it really took off with the interviews. I had some great interviews. I had Chris Voss. I had Cody Sanchez. Yeah. And I'll get back there again. You know, we're repivoting and figuring it out. Got a new teleprompter sitting in here. I'm going to probably shoot a video this afternoon.
A teleprompter? That's like cheating.
Oh, yeah. We're going big on it.
That's like cheating. Are you kidding me? I come in here with no notes. I just make it up as I go.
You get doing a 10, 12-minute video without notes. I'm like, I cannot do that. Plus, you know, my biggest fear when I shoot these things, I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. And I take so much time putting this together, and it has to bring value to the people that are taking the time to watch the content. Well, and I think that's go ahead. I'm
sorry. I think that, like, you know, I know you guys have fun doing it, but like Fridays with George, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you must get good feedback on that because you guys, you know, you have a little fun, but you're educational at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, it works very, very well. But I think if you're really building anything with content, you've got to really think about who's on the other side of it. Who am I trying to attract?
Right.
What do they want to see? You know, we see so many agents that put out pretty pictures, and they'll get likes, but they won't get you business.
Yeah.
It's got to bring value to the people that you're trying to attract. And then once you've done it and you've been consistent for a while and you've brought them value, then they'll start reaching out to you. And it works. I'll have George on once in a while. We'll talk about single tenant net lease deals, and those videos get him business.
Yeah.
You know,
Nice.
people start calling, hey, how do I get in touch with George? And, so make sure George contacts them, or he'll go on my YouTube channel and make comments back to them, and they connect. And
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
it drives business, but you got to think about how do you bring value.
Yeah, I think that, I never started this with sort of a target. Like, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to do this, and, in 1 month, I'm going to have, 5 new clients, either a landlord or a tenant, because I'm doing this. I just sort of went and did it. I've continued to take let's have some fun while we're doing this approach to it. Try not to take it too seriously, but be serious about what I'm doing. And I think that we've had probably a little more than a handful of things that have come our way via social media. There's been nothing that's been lucrative, but we're not stopping the social media because of that. We didn't assign we didn't assign a dollar value goal in terms of what we're doing. And we just go about it, and we have some fun. And I still got to rile up, the youngsters a little bit more about getting them out there and doing some more stuff, because I want them to promote themselves. It's not, I don't need my name said, on the screen every single day. I'd rather it be theirs, working here. So it continues to be a work in progress. But we're enjoying.
You've got a great story, though. I mean, all the clients you've got, Panda Express. What an opportunity to do the proof stacking that Edward Winslow's putting out there.
I know.
If you sat down and wrote that out or did a video on that, it's so powerful.
I got to work on that, because it's funny. I do this radio show weekly. And the guy who hosts the radio show, when I do my segment, he says to me, they got these, Ryan Serhant's got the $1 million listing, and they got the Real Housewives doing. He goes, how come they don't have it for commercial? I said, because the reality is, with the commercial part of it, the only thing that's good is the end. Our process is so long. I'm like, you don't want to come with me into the basement of a former restaurant where the rats are so big you got to put a saddle on them, and that's not fun. And then a retail lease, at least here in New York, on average is 4 months. But the bigger the tenant, like a Panda Express and what have you, the detail that goes into it, the negotiations take 6 and 9 months. So it's hard to tell a story. And Steph and I talk often about how we could do like an Ed Winslow, stack in terms of, here's this Panda Express, and we started with this, and this is how it ended up, and try to make it interesting. So we're still working on that, because I could also walk around and talk about the 200 drugstores I did, but quite frankly, sometimes I think people want to kill themselves if they hear about another drugstore. So, but coming back to you guys, you guys have you got quite a team. I think that we should talk about CBI and the community that you guys have created. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of that. Fortunate enough to benefit a little bit. I'm not retiring because of the transaction we put together, but it was nice that Ari brought some business our way. I hope to reciprocate one day. But talk about that. Talk about the community that you've put together.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
So with Commercial Brokers International, one of the things that we ran into is that, as a smaller firm that's more regional, I should say, we had an issue in that we had great people that were very knowledgeable and can handle any client that was out there as far as any type of skill level, any type of asset. And because of our marketing, we're able to bring in a lot of regional, national, and international clients that wanted to work with us. Typically, though, whenever they wanted to expand outside of Los Angeles, they had to actually, they would go away from us. We brought in a company from Australia. We helped them set up everything all throughout Southern California. But as soon as they wanted to expand further, they had actually brought in a P&E company, brought in some money, and they said, you got to use a national firm for your expansion. So they started going after that and looking at that. And so during COVID, we came up with, or Joe came up with, we're not doing much of anything during COVID, so what can we do?
Growing our hair.
Yeah, let's do something, and let's talk to other brokers around the country that aren't doing much else anyways during COVID, and let's talk about actually planning about working together in the future. So we created a affiliate network that was, because one of the broken models that we saw was there's a lot of networks out there, but, nobody wants to pay $50,000 a year plus, an additional 10% on top of the referral fee just to belong to a network. So we decided, let's curate some of the best regional and local brokers in the area that we can actually affiliate with and work with and feel very comfortable passing along clients back and forth to. More importantly, what that actually helped us, we were able to, right after COVID or right during that COVID period with this, we were actually able to bring in a extremely large international firm that was going to expand throughout all of the United States. Unfortunately, they were headquartered in China, and the laws changed in China right at that point. But we specifically were able to sign them up to an exclusive representation ahead, and this was a company that was owned by one of the largest brand, Luxottica, out of Germany, but this is their brand that was out of China. We're able to get them to agree to use us on a national basis because we reached out to all of our affiliates and said, hey, we have this client working. Let's put together a pitch. We were able to put that pitch together faster than any other national firm, and the data was just as good, if not better, and exactly where they wanted. So they decided to go with us. And unfortunately, because of the foreign trade laws and foreign law passages, that didn't come to fruition. But it was a eye-opener in that by doing this and setting this up, then we're actually expanding our actual network and services that we can offer our clients, as well as our affiliates can offer our clients. So we go back and forth, we share ideas, we talk to people. We've picked up a lot from our affiliates. We've also picked up different tools that they've used, whether it's AI driven. We have these huge synergies that really benefit us because, as opposed to one company testing this out, we now have, 15 companies that are testing different systems, talking about it, working together and collaborating.
Well, let me throw out, I'm part of that, and I'm fortunate, I'm grateful to you guys for bringing me in, and I'm fortunate to be a part of that. I would just constructive criticism for lack of anything else. We haven't had one of those sort of group chats in a while, and maybe we should probably put something together. I don't know how many people, on our affiliates list are showing up at the CREI Summit, but maybe, we could talk about it collectively if it means anything, or maybe you should throw out some dates, and we should all get on the horn. I think, maybe the beginning of September, because we're closing out another calendar year, but we probably should have that chat one day.
Yeah, and we've added a good number.
Yeah.
We've got several new affiliates now. So we're just talking to one in Romania this morning and wants to come on board. And, that's the power of the marketing, right? Is you never know where in the world somebody's going to find you. But this guy's got a great company in Romania, and he's independent. I want to touch on one thing is the reason that we really did this is these bigger companies, the CBREs, the JLLs of the world, although they are great companies, I had to say that, it's tough for us to compete against them, right? So we, as a unified group of 27 affiliates, now we can handle these deals for them. We've got some of the top brokers in some of the best markets. Probably our weak spot is the Northwest. But other than that, we've pretty much got everybody else covered, other than North Dakota, which I don't have a lot of activity up there. So, but we've got pretty much every place else covered.
We have a lot of. We have a decent amount of followers amongst ourselves. Maybe we should. I know that we're all, promoting a lot with regards to CREI Summit, coming up. But maybe we should find a way to individually and collectively plug CBI a little bit more often. In our social feeds. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, we probably should. We just, we're working with the CREI Summit so much, I get a little leery about self-promotion there too much. And, that's honestly why you see behind me, I've got joekillinger.co, and behind George, you got Commercial Brokers International.
Right.
We're also very conscious of I see some brokers that are out there that it's the same thing every day, and you get burned out of seeing it.
We should figure out sort of a sequence, and it shouldn't be there every day. I agree with you 1,000%.
Right.
But maybe we should work on some sequence, and maybe it's me speaking one day, and it's you speaking another day, and it's Heather in Madison, Wisconsin speaking one day, and Brittany McGrath, whoever. I think that I think people would be on board with that. And just we could drop a logo into the thing and whatever. But
sure.
that's for a separate conversation.
Absolutely, I'm all for it.
Yeah. So you guys, how many people are under the umbrella internally there at this point that make up the
21.
organization?
22 now. Just as of yesterday, 22.
Yeah, 22. Yeah.
Well, is that did it go up one or did it go down one?
Went up one yesterday.
Good.
It's so we're focusing on. We're going to hire like 3 or 4 more agents, and then we'll be done in LA. And then we want to open an office in the Newport Beach area.
Okay.
Corona Del Mar, Newport Beach.
All right.
We get a lot of leads from our marketing down there, and we just haven't been able to service them because we don't know. We just can't do that. So
Really?
we just give it to brokers we know down there. So it doesn't make sense to keep doing that when we can open a small office there and have good agents in-house for Commercial Brokers.
Well, that's great. That's great. So that's exciting stuff. I mean, the universe is going through a lot of changes, politically and what have you, and everything ties back. Everything always finds its way back to the economy, and the economy affects everything that we do on so many different levels. But I'm so excited for you guys, with your growth and you're continuing to do what you do, and I'm blowing smoke because I mean it sincerely, and I love you guys, and like I said, we're great friends. I love hearing this story, and quite frankly, I look forward to continue. Firstly, I look forward to seeing you guys and meeting you, and
Yeah.
I don't know how tall or short you are, or how fat or how skinny you are, but I'm coming in with a big hug because that's just me, and so you better just strap in.
We'll be ready.
I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out there in a couple. It's really at this point like 5 weeks or so, so that's exciting, and I look forward to our continued friendship and our business growth together, and I'm here for you guys in any way I can be, and reach out anytime.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you both, George Pino, Joe Killinger, my West Coast guys, for spending some time with me and talking about your story and our story collectively. And we'll talk some more in the future. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.